In a distant kingdom where golden palaces touched the sky and wise men walked the land, a powerful king ruled with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. He often challenged the wisest minds, believing that true power lay in understanding the mysteries of life. One day, a renowned sage arrived at the palace to perform a grand ritual. Once the ritual was complete, the king, intrigued by the sage's wisdom, decided to test him. "Sage, I have 3 questions for you," the king declared. "What does God look like? How far can he see, and what does he do?" The sage was taken aback. These were no ordinary questions. He bowed respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, these are profound matters. I need time to reflect and find the right answers." The king nodded. "You have 1 month. Return with wisdom, not mere words." The sage went home, his mind heavy with the king's challenge. He meditated, searched through ancient texts, and consulted other scholars, but no answer seemed worthy of a king's court. As the days slipped away, worry gripped his heart. His young son, a bright and curious boy, noticed his father's distress. "Father, why do you seem so troubled?" he asked one evening. The sage sighed. "The king has asked me 3 great questions, and I must provide answers soon, but I fear I have not found them yet." The boy's eyes twinkled with confidence. "What are these questions?" Sage repeated them. "The king wishes to know what God looks like, how far he can see, and what he does." The boy chuckled. "That's all? Father, don't worry. I will answer the king myself." The sage frowned. "Tell me your answers now." The boy shook his head. "No, father. Let the king hear them in his court." Trust me, though skeptical, the sage had no choice. When the day arrived, he took his son to the palace. The grand hall was packed with noblemen, advisors, and scholars, all eager to hear the sage's response. The king, seated on his jeweled throne, gestured for the sage to speak. "Your Majesty," the sage said, bowing low, "I have brought my son. He is young but wise beyond his years. He will answer your questions." The court murmured in surprise. A mere boy answering the king's challenge. This was unheard of. The king, curious, turned to the boy. "Very well, young one. Tell me, what does God look like?" The boy smiled. "Your Majesty, you are a great and generous ruler. Yet when a guest enters your court, is it not customary to offer them something to drink before questioning them?" The king, caught off guard, felt a twinge of embarrassment. "You are right. Bring him milk at once." A servant hurriedly brought a glass of milk, placing it before the boy. Instead of drinking it, the boy dipped his finger into the milk and began stirring it slowly, peering into the liquid with deep concentration. The king frowned. "What are you doing?" "I'm looking for butter in the milk," the boy replied calmly. The court erupted in laughter. The king, amused but puzzled, shook his head. "You cannot find butter that way. The milk must first be turned into curd, then churned before butter appears." The boy nodded. "Exactly, Your Majesty. Just like butter, God is not seen with ordinary eyes. He is present in everything. But to truly find him, one must meditate, seek wisdom, and walk the righteous path." The king was impressed. "A clever answer. Now tell me, how far can God see?" The boy asked for a candle. A servant quickly brought one, lighting it before him. The boy held it up. "Your Majesty, tell me, how far does this light spread?" The king watched the flame flicker. "It spreads in all directions," he replied. The boy nodded. "And so does God's sight. He sees everything, everywhere. Nothing escapes him, neither a beggar's silent prayer, nor a king's hidden thoughts." The court fell silent. The weight of his words hung in the air. The king leaned forward, impressive. "Now tell me, what does God do?" The boy smirked. "Are you asking as a king, or as a humble disciple?" The king was taken aback, but decided to play along, as a disciple, of course. The boy stepped forward. "Then, Your Majesty, is it not strange that the disciple sits on the throne while the teacher stands before him?" The realization struck like lightning. The king, realizing the wisdom in the boy's words, immediately rose from his throne and invited the boy to sit. The boy sat for a moment, then spoke. "This is what God does. In an instant, he can turn a beggar into a king and a king into a beggar." Fate is in his hands, and none can predict his will." The court erupted in admiration. The king, deeply moved, bowed slightly before the boy. "You have taught me more today than I could have ever imagined." From that day forward, the king ruled with greater humility, always remembering that power was temporary, but wisdom was eternal. God is present in everything, sees everything, and determines the fate of all. Whether rich or poor, powerful or weak, all are equal in his eyes. Do good, for every action has consequences.